too late to sit down and pen another verse. Music is my therapy.
Hello again, my friends, and you are my friends. It is Monday. It is time for your Formula One fan show live, your Monday night pit stop. Sorry, we are a little bit late there, but you'll see Steve in unfamiliar digs. So we were just working through some technical issues. Neil obviously never turns up on time, so we couldn't start with just me and Neil. That would have been helpful. But no, we're here. We're live. Lots to talk about. A really surprising weekend with a all too familiar winner. So the more things change, the more they stay the same, as they say. Adam, straight in with the big question. Lewis not getting out of Q3 has to be one of the biggest shocks in F1 history. I'm going to start that comment, Adam, and I'm going to mention that straight to Steve when he comes in. Dan Sparks, welcome in. Dan, hope you're well. Queue up regarding what Adam just said. Even worse, I don't think it was such a huge shock to say biggest in F1 history. He was struggling throughout practice, especially for grip on softs, but it did look better. I did see a video with Hamilton, and he was like all over the place. Like I don't know what they did to the car. I'm sure Toto will say that they were trying some things on Lewis's car, but good grief. That's not hurting in the morning. That neck ache. It was something silly. Dan Sparks again. McLaren and Merc for me. Basically, our UK boys I'll follow. Absolutely loathe Red Bull. So you weren't a fan of Max Verstappen winning then. A soft spot for Haas loving K-Mag's return. Absolutely. Evening, Matt Stannard. Hope you're well. Exciting race. Show out the results on to next race. Right, we'd love to know what you thought of this weekend's action. Whether it be Lewis, Max, Leclerc, whether it be the Alpine boys, whether it be whatever it might be that come out of this weekend, we'd love to hear it. Put your questions to the guys, get your thoughts in the chat. We'll pick up every comment, we'll respond to every comment. And while you're all there thinking of things to say, I'll go ahead and bring in our aficionado of the F1 world. He's in new digs. It's Tomo. Good afternoon, Mr. Thompson. Or evening, I suppose. How are we doing?
Right. Yeah, very good to be there. It's taken off the camera. They're on beer. There you go.
Nothing wrong with a beer, Stephen. Particularly when the weather's nice and the clocks have changed. Suddenly, the evenings are a lot lighter, but the race action is getting heavy early because there's lots at stake, and there's quite a few drivers this year that are in the mix.
You can't predict it from one race to the next. Well, we've only had two, but you can't really predict it, can you? It's
No, you really can't.
It's been fantastic so far.
It's been really exciting from your point of view as an aficionado, but from others as well. You know, one of the biggest shocks of the campaign of the F1 of history. I don't know. Talk to me as an aficionado. What was the ripple effect and just how big of an issue was Hamilton and that practice failure?
I actually want to start by an apology. Matt, I saw your comment on Twitter that you tagged me in. I do apologise. I never actually responded about stopping in dangerous positions. I don't know about any regulations regarding that. I know there is you must stop in a safe place. I don't know where any of them actually stopped, if it was unsafe or not. But yeah, I do apologise for not actually responding to that comment. I only saw it a little while ago. It's a shock, isn't it? I mean, I know Hamilton have been struggling with that car, but going out in Q1, even if he is struggling, it's still Lewis Hamilton. This is a guy who makes poor cars work. Think back to 2009 when that McLaren was awful, and he still won a race, and he still got them in multiple podiums and good positions. So him going out in Q1 was a hell of a surprise, especially when you see where George Russell put his car on the grid. So it makes you wonder: was there a sort of fundamental issue with Hamilton's car that George didn't have? But it was a shock. He had the qualifying on, not that I was watching it at work, and we had Sky F1 on in the background, and it was a hell of a surprise because you're sort of keeping an eye on it, and then you just see the end of Q1 and you see the 5 eliminated drivers, and then there's Hamilton there with the likes of Tsunoda and the 2 Williams cars, which is
and Latifi. Nice.
Yeah,
Toto did say they would. We'll probably mention him at some point this evening. But Toto did say they were trying new things with Hamilton's car. And I don't know if you saw the video I saw where his head movements were violently. There wasn't a stable car, was it?
No, the porpoising has been bad for them since testing, and it just seems to be getting worse, if anything. I mean, I know it's a different track to Bahrain. It's going to be different from race to race because some circuits are going to be smoother, some circuits are going to have that rougher tarmac, and that is going to, I suppose, exacerbate the issue. But yeah, it was much worse. And even like comparing him to Russell had the edge in qualifying, all race as well. Russell had some brilliant moves. And Hamilton just seemed to really be struggling. He was fighting with Kevin Magnussen. And who'd have thought this time last year that you would see a Mercedes with a 7-time world champion battling a Haas? Not me.
No, not me. But isn't that what the new car can do? Isn't that what the change of cars can really do? Bring teams forward like Ferrari, bring teams back like the Silver Arrows. I mean, they'll come good again. They always do.
Oh, for sure. And the good thing with a massive rule change like this is that it could end the team's dominance. It could start an era of a new team. The 2013 to 2014 change ended Red Bull's dominance and it started Mercedes. And I'm loving it so far because it's like a renaissance of Ferrari. Ferrari are back.
Yeah.
They're reliable. They're quick. They've got two phenomenal drivers. Haas are back, which they are. I'm so happy for Haas, And then it has affected teams like Mercedes. It doesn't seem to have affected Williams. They're still disappointing, but especially after how well they did last year in comparison to previous years, they've taken a step back by the look of it.
It's classic Williams, that really should be fair, isn't it?
Oh, I just set myself up for heartbreak every week, every race.
I don't envy you because you are, of course, an Ipswich Town fan. So not only do you have the Saturday normally that's heartbroken, still seeing us sitting in ninth, but you also have the weekend, which generally with the Latifi driving ends in heartbreak. Right, let's go ahead and bring it up.
They're horrible.
Well,
They are horrible.
yeah, and then of course you're seeing Russell at the top, and you're thinking, what could have been? How sad! How sad!
I don't want to talk about him. I'm still not over him yet.
No, well, I think what we need, I think what we need in this conversation is probably a little bit of positivity.
Wake up to the, wow. Wake up to the money, turn me right on. You look like you got dressed with no lights on. A Superman that spin like a cyclone. Fit check, spin like a cyclone. Wake up to the money, turn me right on.
Yeah, but we're crap. We're not going to dominate any team.
Mr. Moles, good evening.
Hello there.
Hello. Very quickly, Hamilton, practice. How big of a shock was it for you?
I must admit, I didn't watch the practice, so I don't actually know what happened in this scenario.
Well, he wasn't quick enough. End of the scenario. Yes.
I heard you talking about him pulling over in a funny place.
No, it was Matt mentioned me in a comment on Twitter about other people pulling over in dodgy places, that when Alonso's car failed, Ricciardo's car went as well.
They stopped on the entrance of the pit lane. But as you mentioned, Hamilton not being quick enough all weekend. He was unlucky in the race, but prior to that, I don't know what was up. As you mentioned, he had some different setup to Russell. They tried a few things, and he said in an interview that they'd gone the wrong direction. So I guess they've learned something.
Why does a team sort of put those adjustments on one driver and not the other? What's the thinking from a team point of view then, Neil, in terms of, they did some things to his car they didn't do to Russell's?
Well, basically you need a base. So whatever Russell's running, that is the norm, in which you say the norm. Each team has their own ideas on what to adjust to get the car to do what they want it to. And each team will be different because their car handles different, how they've the aero package and everything. But in this case, so Russell's got the standard way they would go, and they want to try and improve that. So they think they know a way that might improve it, and they tried that with Hamilton, and they unfortunately found out that it didn't work. So I guess depending on how much was changed that can't be changed through the Parc Fermé regulations, they couldn't just go, right, we'll change it all back to normal.
Okay, we've got Dan Sparks loving Charles's tactics in these two races, driving smartly and not intimidated by Max. The future rivalry is looking tasty for years to come. So yeah, Charles Leclerc finishing second. Steve, Dan loved Leclerc's tactics. How did you view Leclerc's tactics?
I was brilliant. I remember saying a couple of years ago now, when you had Charles and Max fighting for sort of the tail end of the podium and points when Mercedes were at their height, and saying that this is for the future. If these two can find themselves in championship winning cars or championship contending cars, this is going to be incredible. And now we've got that, and it is so good. I can't help but get the feeling Max has changed his driving style a little bit from last year. I think now he's a little bit more cautious. I think now he's got something to lose. He's got a world championship to his name now. He wants to win a second, and he wants to defend his title. So he's actually fighting for something now rather than fighting for that first taste. He's got it, and he's defending it. Charles is now in a similar situation to Max was last year, but Charles is much more, I don't know, he's much cooler, he's much calmer. Max can get very hot-headed. We've seen so many times over the years. Charles, nothing ever really seems to aggravate him. He just always seems calm and collected, and I think that's going to be a decisive factor. It's just it's fantastic to see.
Is this the best? Go on, Neil. Go on.
Yeah, for me, Max hasn't been pushed yet. It's not got to the nitty gritty and the towards the end of the season where it all matters. The way he comes on the radio and keeps complaining about, he crossed the line, and find every slight thing to basically chirp onto the radio about. It's just ridiculous. Get on with your racing. And he'll just revert into what he was last season if the FIA allow him to.
No, I don't think they will this year. I think they're going to be a lot tougher and a lot stricter because they don't want to risk a repeat of what happened last year, because that threw the sport into such a bad name. I think there's going to be quite a few changes in that regard this year, and I would love to see Charles win a first title. We're only 2 races into a long season, but I'm all for it. I'm on the Charles Leclerc hype train, absolutely. Verstappen's won his. Let's see Charles now.
Is this his best driving of his career? Do you think? Do you think he's sort of in a purple patch? Do you think this is the Charles in the new car that we're going to see from this point on? Is there now a rivalry brewing with Red Bull? As fans, where are we with that? Because obviously I'm not putting the two drivers in the same bracket, but Tsunoda last year was really good early doors and then wasn't. Are we going to see Ferrari cool a little bit, or are they going to be right at it all season long, Steve?
I think they're going to be at it all season long. This is Ferrari. They have won more championships than anyone, more races than anyone. They've been in F1 since day one. So if anyone's got experience of how to maintain a championship fight, it is them. With regards to Charles driving, I don't know, because 2019 he put in some incredible performances. He put in 2 race wins. He won in Belgium. He won in Monza in a car which wasn't the quickest. I know that was when Ferrari had their questionable power unit, shall we say, with regards to legality. But he was still fighting against Mercedes, who were top of the pile. So this is going to be a massive test for him, because he has got what is obviously the quickest car on the grid. Well, very, very close with Red Bull. So he's going to need to maintain that. And it is going to be consistency that wins this championship, it is for so many. But this is the year you need to keep your head down, keep your head cool. And I hope that your car holds out, really.
Yeah.
He's given a head start with that Red Bull issue back in Bahrain. So that's given him a little bit of breathing space. He's still got a good lead in the championship, but it is going to get so close because Verstappen is not going to give up.
I get the feeling that it's Red Bull's for the taking, and especially seeing this weekend, that Red Bull can just turn it up as long as they don't have anything like in Bahrain where it just suddenly stops on them. Their car seems that it can be turned up that little bit more. whereas Ferrari seemed to plateau a little bit this weekend. They're still up there, still fighting, can still win races, but when Red Bull want to, as we saw, Verstappen can get past them. Especially if DRS is as easy as it was this weekend. That was a joke.
That was just fantastically bad. It was amazing. It was just like opening a little rocket ship strapped to the back of your car. It was terrible.
What do you think of the DRS line and the brake testing that went on with that?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, with
Don't
DRS,
sit on the fence. Come on. Don't sit on the fence.
well, with DRS, I've never been a fan of it because I just hate artificial overtaking. You know, if you want the position bad enough, work for it. Outbrake your opponent. Chuck in a Danny Rick and just brake at the last possible second and torpedo it on the inside. Hopefully not actually torpedoing the car. But DRS has always just been too artificial for me. It takes some of that element of the racing out of it. You know, if you've got a driver fighting for the lead, I want to see a proper fight. I don't want to see the driver in second place just open a little flap and go, see you later, and then get it. And it's gone from being, sometimes it's never effective. Other times it is insanely, like, was it last year in, was it Portimao or Mugello when the DRS line was so far back, the DRS was just too effective. And yeah, you get a lot of tactics with the DRS, don't you? Like we saw in Bahrain with Leclerc braking a little bit earlier, so he got DRS on the second part to get back past Verstappen. To be fair, that was quite clever. But it shows you
They
how
were trying it again, weren't they?
Yeah, didn't work.
Both of them. No, Verstappen ended up basically. Well, he could have easily flat spotted his tyres. How hard he had to try and stop, and then Leclerc saw his chance just to nail it and got a gap again. And yeah. But as soon as a car got in that 1 second, the DRS was so strong they were coming past.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. I know that there have been talks about scrapping DRS, and a lot of former drivers and team bosses and whatnot, and personnel in the paddock and around Formula One have said they're not a fan of it. I agree. I'm not a fan of it. I want it gone. You know, I was really hoping with these new regulations they'd scrap it because it just takes something away from it for me. It's not pure.
I felt I was nervous on how much these regulations were going to improve the racing, and in which it's found out that they can drive closer. They don't seem to have the balance in the cars yet that they can do the banzai moves, as you mentioned, Daniel Rick, sort of esque lunges. So I just think it might still be difficult to overtake, but the DRS is too strong. It's just silly. So in some ways, I either tone it down majorly or get rid of it because it's just silly.
Is that something they can do mid-season? Or, you know, because we are in the season now, or is that going to be something that is going to be here for the whole season and will only be addressed for next season?
It'll probably only be addressed for next season, but I don't know how easy it is to move the detection zones and the activation zones, because all it is a beam and all that sort of thing. But yeah, basically however F1 will normally work slowly. They'll think of doing something tomorrow and it will be done in 5 months' time.
Unless it affects the championship. Matt Stannard, and then they'll do it mid-race. I sort of agree. DRS does help a slightly slower car. I'd keep it, but give everyone 3 to use at their choosing. If you can't see Steve, we do apologise. He hasn't got a light bulb. You're in a new place, aren't you, Steve?
Yeah, we moved in yesterday, so it's literally been a case of getting stuff out and chucking stuff in where it should go. I've just gone to flick the light on, and I've noticed there's actually no light bulb in the fitting. So I might have to go and pilfer one from the second bedroom and just.
We've all been there. We're moving somewhere. You're like, oh no.
Hopefully by next Monday's show, everything will be fine. I'll be back on the computer rather than on my phone, and I'll have a light, and I can actually see the chat better, and I'll be able to see me better. I mean, not that, not seeing my face is probably an advantage, but.
Well, we can certainly hear you. So tell us about the strategy that hampered Perez, Steve. Because that
was heartbreaking, man. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate the congratulations as well. That was heartbreaking. pole position. He's been in Formula One since 2011. He's finally got his first pole position. He took it out of Ferrari because people thought it would be a Ferrari again. And out of nowhere, that pole position as well. He wasn't really in the chat for pole. It was always between the two Ferraris and Verstappen. Perez out of nowhere. And he got absolutely stuffed by that safety car. And then he had to give that position back to Sainz. And he just never recovered from it. And I felt so bad for him. He just looks so down after the race. I mean, yeah, he'll pick himself back up, and he'll win races again and get poles again. But you're always going to be disappointed. This is your chance. You can convert pole to victory, get yourself in this championship fight, especially after a DNF in the first race, and you get stuffed by something beyond your control. That's the worst thing. It's just bad luck. It's not like your own mistake that cost you the win or your own silly overtake or whatever. It's just bad luck. I feel so bad for him.
Yeah, bad luck, Neil.
Just give me 2 seconds. I'm going to go and try and find a light bulb. I'll be right back.
To a degree, it is bad luck, but Ferrari almost played the game. They said basically do whatever Perez doesn't do. So if Perez didn't pit, Leclerc was going to pit to try and undercut him. So they wanted to try and stop that, and instead they pitted, and then, a safety car happens. So it's really unlucky in that aspect. As for later on, I'll wait for Steve to come back with a question. It was put about the fact that when they raced to the safety car line between Sainz and Perez kept the position even though he was about a foot apparently short. He ended up being ahead. Steve?
Here he is.
Hello.
Yeah,
There
with the safety car, second one, Perez and Sainz racing to the line, and Perez being about a foot short, but kept the position, and then they swapped back afterwards. Do you feel it should have happened during the safety car so Sainz could have attacked Verstappen, or do you think it was fine being as it was?
I think it should have happened behind the safety car, to be honest, because you're gonna, if you do it behind the safety car, then at least you got that chance. Sainz can attack Verstappen, Perez can try and get back past Sainz in a proper racing sort of in that sort of restart and in that racing mode again. But doing it when we all go green again, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you lose that position, you lose momentum. You might drop back a little bit because you then risk the person behind you then getting you as well. It's what you see that when cars lap each other. Someone might drop back too far. I would rather did it behind the safety car, to be honest, because we then could have seen a really tasty fight with Sainz, Verstappen, Perez in there as well. So hopefully next time, when it happens again, they'll actually do it behind the safety car.
He's muted himself, I think.
He's muted
Sorry,
himself.
do apologise. Oh yeah, I did press mute by my mistake.
I saw some lips moving and nothing was happening.
I was going to talk about Mick and his big crash. Did you want to touch on that today?
Well, yeah. Just say how incredible that is that Mick is okay and
absolutely,
I suppose relatively unscathed, apart from maybe being a bit winded and a bit sore, probably. That was
really scary. I'm going to say
that was a hell of an impact. Yeah.
170 mile an hour concrete barrier.
Concrete. That is shocking. And I think it brings into question the safety of the Jeddah circuit, because we saw so many crashes in Formula 2 as well. I mean, Latifi had a couple of crashes himself, but that's just Latifi. But Formula 2, there were numerous big crashes in Formula 2, even in just the practice and the quali. And then this one with Mick, that could have been really nasty. It's very rare that when they're clearing away a car, you see it split in two.
Yeah, no, it wasn't nice, was it?
And the wheels actually coming off it as well.
Really hard to watch.
It was shocking to watch.
They didn't show Mick getting out of the car. Did they remove him by the seat?
No, they didn't. No, which was good. They did from what I saw back, it was a very similar thing. Do you remember when Grosjean had his massive crash in Bahrain with the fire and everything? they didn't put cameras on him until they knew he was okay. It was very much like that. So you want to know how the guy is, but you just want to, you don't want to see it in a way. So if they don't show it, it's okay. But you do want to see it because you want to know he's okay. And that was, that fair play to both the modern Formula One cars to absorb that and keep the driver protected.
20 years ago, though, Neil, I think we're sitting here and sadly we're talking about a different story, don't you?
Yeah, you could say that about pretty much all crashes, really.
But particularly this one.
Not
Often you see a car go nose first, 170 mile an hour on the concrete. I mean, I've never seen. I'm a new fan. I've never seen it, and it's the scariest thing I've seen since I started watching it.
Thing is, when Lewis came on the scene, and I can't remember, it was early on in his career, and he had, I think it was one of the practice sessions, and I just remember him. He had a failure, might have been a brake failure. He went straight on, hit the gravel. It launched him into the air, so he was airborne, nailed straight into a tyre barrier. You think?
I bet Germany 2007. I remember that. Yeah.
And you think that's something as simple as that. That, like you say, Martin, take it 20 years ago. Yeah, you know the answer.
Absolutely, yeah. Right. Latifi, before we move on to the next race, Steve, your boy, got you two talking in the WhatsApp group. His future was well, he's not doing well. So tell us about Nicholas Latifi.
This is his moment, isn't it? Because he's had 2 years in the shadow of George Russell, who's one of the next biggest things in Formula One, and his performances were improving last year. He managed to out-qualify Russell a couple of times before the end. I was then going to suggest, actually, we should rename bemoaning Bottas to bemoaning Latifi, because Bottas is having a cracker of a season so far.
I know. Don't worry, we'll change back at some point. I'm absolutely sure of that. But,
he'll come back. This is his season to finally prove that he can be a team leader, because even though Albon's coming in as obviously an experienced F1 driver, Latifi has been there since 2020. It's his third season with the team now. He needs to prove that he can lead a team and push on, and that he deserves a seat in a better team. And he was out-qualified by Albon in Bahrain. He was out in Q1. Albon got into Q2. Albon was in the hunt for points at some point. Latifi never was. You get to Saudi Arabia. He crashes in qualifying. He starts dead last, apart from Tsunoda, who didn't start a lap, who didn't even qualify. And then he's out. Albon retired as well. That was with an incident with Lance Stroll. We'll leave that one because it's debatable who's more at fault, but Albon's been given the penalty for it.
Yeah,
I thought it was more Stroll myself.
I did. Stroll turned in. But this is another weekend where Latifi has been comprehensively outperformed by a teammate, and a new teammate. He's only been in the team a matter of months behind the wheel.
And Albon hasn't been convincing.
No, Albon has not been. I mean, he was okay in Bahrain, but nothing special. That car is a decent little car by the looks of it. But Latifi is just toiling around on his own, whereas Albon is proving he can at least mix it with the likes of maybe Mick Schumacher and the Alphas, and the Alpha Tauris. Latifi is just trundling around almost by himself, it seems. You never really see him making progress. And the difference with Williams now compared to Williams a couple of years ago when he first got that seat is they don't need his money now. Doralton are bringing a lot of money to the team. They have secured the team's long-term future. They've hired Albon on the fact that he is a talented young driver, as opposed to the fact that they could hire someone who could bring in a lot of money. They're focusing more on, we need to hire talented drivers now who can get us back up the grid. Latifi is, as much as I like the guy and he seems like a nice enough guy, like you can go and have a chat with him, he struggles. And like I said, the difference.
What would you do with him?
What would I do? I would probably give him. If I was Jost Capito, I would give him until mid-season, sort of season break, because you give him a chance, you give him time to get into that car in a racing environment. He's had plenty of different opportunities then. If he's not improved, if he's not showing signs of improvement, what do you do? Do you look elsewhere? Do you go for someone who's out of a seat? Do you look at your reserve driver? Jack Aitken's raced for them before. Could he do it again?
Yeah, I'm not convinced by Aitken. He's a nice lad, but he's very mediocre.
Yeah, I think even in Formula 2, he never set the world alight, really.
No. I think there are drivers out there that would do a good job in that seat, but
There's plenty of F1 drivers out there. I would love to see Robert Kubica back in a car that can actually have the opportunity to fight, because when he drove for Williams in 2019, it was god awful. 19th, 20th every race, 19th, 20th qualifying and race finish. But yeah, like
I
Matt
think
said
that's
there,
a
it's very
little flash in the pan of that'd be a nice little thing to see, but he's had his time, I'm afraid.
I think that is. I'm speaking more from the romance of it, seeing Kubica back after what the accident he had.
It's not like you to be speaking from the romance of it, Steve. You're normally not romantic at all. None whatsoever.
I love this team. I've supported this team basically the entire time I've been watching Formula One. I've never seen the highs of a championship win, but I've seen them when they were fighting McLaren and Ferrari at the front of the grid, and I've seen them slip back, and they've got an opportunity to move forward with this investment from Doralton. They've got Jost Capito in charge, who knows his stuff. He's got a lot of success in previous racing.
I think the Albon move though does show that Latifi's clock is very much ticking.
Yeah, this has shown Latifi up as a bang average driver.
This is a prove it year, surely, and he ain't proved jack after the first two races.
No, I mean, it's early days, obviously, like I say, but Albon has proven that he is the quicker of the two, and he's proven that he can get that car into Q2 and, mix it with the midfield.
It's quite shrewd what they did, Neil, because they brought in, obviously, Alex Albon, and he's a good driver, and it's almost we'll bring in a good driver, but not a marquee, not somebody who's been in previously, whatever, the other options they could have gone, but somebody who will push the car, and we can really gauge from Albon where Latifi should be, and even after two races, there's gulfs between them. Gulfs.
Yeah, I didn't believe Albon would do an Alonso and he'd come straight in and be up to speed. I felt Albon is a decent driver. He's got a good bit of racecraft about him, and it is when he's put under pressure is his problem, in which being at Williams, he should be okay for the time being because they're just trying to push up into the midfield.
Trying to finish the race.
Yeah, but
sorry,
well, when you come across Lance Stroll, no one's got any luck, have they?
No, that's true. That's true. Right.
So,
go on, Neil. Go on. Finish the point. Sorry, sir.
Yeah, I don't think Williams will rush their decision. I think they'll end up seeing the season out with him, and then obviously make the choice. Then they'll have someone in mind, I imagine.
The tricky thing is with them, just sort of adding it in very quickly now, is that they've obviously slipped back and other teams have moved forward. So they've gone from 8th, which they were after the first race, to 10th because of this.
I think they'll yo-yo with McLaren, though. This was a track that is more beneficial to their car.
Yeah, they're gonna have to think about the fact they were 8th last year. If they want to maintain that or better it, is Latifi the man to really get you there?
Okay, right, we're done. This is this week's episode. We're back next week to preview the next race. There's no race this Sunday, boys. It's a weekend off. The following week we are in Australia.
Australia, yeah.
Australia Grand Prix for the first time.
We can do a little look forward to that.
We can go to the land down under.
One of my favourites. I can't wait.
It's a good tune, that. Man from Brussels, 6'4" and full of muscles. What a tune! Right, he said, "Do you speak my language?" We're out of time.
He just smiled and gave me a Vegemite sandwich.
He did. I never had a Vegemite sandwich. Never.
Can't say I have.
No.
I've had a Marmite sandwich, but not a Vegemite sandwich.
It's probably the closest I'll get.
Is that the same? Do you think? Is that the same though? Really, like a Vegemite and a Marmite? Is that?
I don't know. There'll be some connoisseur out there that will say they're not even remotely the same.
That's true. That's true.
Marmite connoisseur.
Metal, see, we do it all here at the F1 Fan Show. Metal Jace, the Ocon Alonso battle was fun for the neutral. No idea how Alonso didn't crash into Ocon. Matt says great show, and he also asked, "Did I read right? Is there a Vegas street race?"
Yep.
Nice.
Well, there's Miami. I don't know about Vegas. I haven't heard about Vegas.
Another great tune, you know. So the night is on, night to the beach, to the break of dawn. I'm going to Miami, beneath the Miami. There is. Right, we're done. We're dusted. We're back next week with love, with care. Steve, lead us out, my man. Tell the people where they can find us normally.
Thank you very much. Apologies you couldn't see my face for half of that, but there we go. I'll get it sorted for next time. Thank you very much for watching.
The
We
greatest
are
episode
back.
ever, that was.
There you go. We're back Monday, 7:15, with a nice review or a nice preview of the Australian Grand Prix. You can find us across all of the socials. It's the F1 Fan Show Live, all the good podcast bits and pieces. Yeah, so we'd love to hear more of you getting involved. Chat was great again tonight, and we'll see you on Monday.
I know it's never too late to sit down.